Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome to Quick Break Games. So in the summer of 2022, we learned that some major TT Games developers, the creators of the LEGO games, had left TT to start a new studio called 1010 Games, where they would be making a AAA Funko video game to be released in 2023. In October of 2022, 1010 Games confirmed that the game would be called Funko Fusion. Built in Unreal Engine 5 and targeting a T for Teen rating, Funko Fusion would primarily feature characters and locations from NBCUniversal's properties and would support single-player or online co-op with up to 4 players. A teaser trailer showing the first look at gameplay and some of the featured franchises was released in April of 2023, where the game was also delayed until 2024. Fast forward about a year and a half and Funko Fusion was officially released for current-gen consoles and PC on September 13th, 2024. At the time of this video releasing, we are now roughly 1 year from launch, and a lot has happened since then. Let's break down the gameplay mechanics, features, story, and more to see how 1010 Games' Funko Fusion holds up today. When booting up the game, you're greeted with a peaceful piano note as you enter the main menu, which features loads of Funko merchandise and Easter eggs. When you start a new game, the game says everyone is a fan of something, and immediately lets you choose your character from 28 different options across 7 franchises. So these are the 7 main franchises featured in the game, and whichever you choose will determine which franchise that you get to play first. For this video, we're going to choose Nicholas Angel from 2007's Hot Fuzz. Your character will then pop out of a pop box in this game's main hub, the Wonderworks Factory. This hub is comparable to the hub worlds from some of the older LEGO games like Dexter's Diner from LEGO Star Wars, or the Batcave from LEGO Batman. Here you can immediately start playing, and this will begin the game's tutorial sequence. You'll meet Foxo, and the game will teach you some basic mechanics. To switch characters in this game, you have to walk up to a nearby pop box, so for now we're going to switch over to Danny Butterman from Hot Fuzz. So now the game introduces you to combat, which you're going to be doing a lot of throughout this game. You can use the left trigger to aim and then use the right trigger to fire, or you can just hit the right trigger to do a hip fire. There's also a melee button. Some enemies like this one will require you to switch between melee and shooting to damage them, which I like. It kind of keeps you on your toes. You can also hold the melee attack button to do a charge attack for a more powerful move, or you can do a ground slam by jumping and then hitting the melee attack button. To recover health, you can drink green Funko soda. There's actually a whole inventory system in the bottom left corner where you can hold up to 5 items at a time. So around this room, there are 3 blue proto parts. You can take these to the blue mold machine to unlock the bounce pad gadget. Blue mold machines are scattered throughout the game and are used to craft gadgets, which are used to solve puzzles. The bounce pad is a basic trampoline giving you access to higher up areas that you wouldn't normally be able to reach. In the next area, you're introduced to the main floor of the Wonderworks factory where Foxo, Proto, and Freddy Funko himself hang out. Things quickly go south when a mysterious evil version of Freddy Funko called Eddie Funko arrives. This game has really nice pre-rendered cutscenes, by the way, and also I forgot to mention, much like the older LEGO games, Funko Fusion has no voice acting. It's all just mumbles and grunts, which I personally love. Anyway, Freddy Funko basically transforms himself into Iron Man or Mecha Freddy, but unfortunately Eddie is able to take his crown, which is the source of his power. This spreads loads of smaller crowns throughout the worlds that will need to spend the course of the game getting back. So Eddie ends up taking out Freddy, and then he transforms Foxo into a giant tutorial boss. You'll need to shoot the purple blobs that are on him, then gather them up, then deposit them into this little contraption. Enemies will be attacking you during all of this as well. Once the little contraption is all filled up, a giant Mecha Freddy will join the fight, and a few seconds later, Eddie will retreat. Now, Freddy Funko is essentially put into a pop box Bacta-Tank from Star Wars, and you're pretty much ready to start the main game from this point. Freddy provides you with a key, and essentially you need to gather Funko crowns from all across the different Wonder Worlds to gain enough power to defeat Eddie. Before you leave though, you can talk to the various robots in the area to learn more about the combat and game mechanics, which is pretty cool. This game also features a recycling mechanic where after you drink a Funko soda, you can actually recycle the crushed bottle at a nearby recycling bin in exchange for some vinyl. There is an achievement for doing this several times as well, so I'd recommend doing this as much as possible. Vinyl is mainly used to purchase different skins for your characters, but it's also used during levels to craft different items, which we'll get into later. Anyway, let's head downstairs into the Hot Fuzz floor and begin the first level. I love how the floor that you're on in the Wonderworks factory represents whichever franchise that you're currently in, and how they have all these different doorways leading into each level. It's super similar to something like the Mos Eisley Cantina from LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. But let's not waste any more time and begin Hot Fuzz Level 1, Primetime Crime. Hot Fuzz, I think, is the best world to start with because Primetime Crime has zero combat in it, so it's perfect for just learning this game's mechanics without enemies attacking you. In the starting room, you can talk to the NPC character, so although this game has no voice acting, the characters do talk through text bubbles. Also notice how the clock reads 10:10. In fact, every clock throughout the game shows 10:10 as a reference to the developers, so that's pretty neat. There's a pop box here, so we'll switch back over to Nicholas Angel for this level. There's also two new mold machines, a green one and a red one. The green mold machine is used to mold Funko soda, so you can spend the vinyl currency to purchase a full health soda if you want. I do recommend always keeping at least one thing of health in your inventory. You're definitely going to need it during combat later on. There's also a bunch of other sodas that you can unlock much later in the game. The red mold machine, on the other hand, is used to craft weapons. Right now you'll only have the grenade unlocked, but again you'll be able to unlock a ton more later on. To be honest, I rarely use the red mold machines when I play this game. I find the weapon that my character has to be just fine most of the time, plus the weapons that you get from the red mold machines have limited ammo, so you're going to need to purchase the weapon again to get more, which can get pretty expensive. But okay, let's actually get into this level. When you walk outside, your main objective is to follow the swan. You'll find that most of the levels in this game are very open. The LEGO game levels were usually more linear, while these feel more like a mini open world to explore. You'll find treasure chests, which will get you more vinyl. I'd recommend pretty much always opening these whenever you see them. But as you're following the swan, it will eventually lead you to the first crime scene where we see quite a bit of blood. Or is it ketchup? You can use the blacklight camera to scan the crime scene to figure out what happened. The swan will then lead you to this cathedral where we see one of the more violent moments in this game. Yeah, that's where this game gets its T for teen rating. But now we need to solve this crime, but we don't have a blacklight camera. Well, we can open 3 nearby blue treasure chests to gather blue proto parts and enter them into a blue mold machine. This unlocks the CS blacklight camera, so now you can craft one wherever you want, and this works across the other worlds in this game as well. Solving this crime will lead you to a mansion that explodes right as you approach it, and there's yet another crime scene. This one involves using a CCTV camera to solve the puzzle to gain access to the mansion. The CCTV camera mechanic will be used several times throughout the game. Anyway, you solve this crime scene, and then there's going to be one more in this flower shop, and that's pretty much the whole level. Each level in this game typically ends with collecting a fun key, which is used to access the final area in the level. In this case, you arrive at the hotel where a gold crown is waiting for you. Grabbing the gold crown will end the level, and those work similar to gold bricks in the LEGO games where you get them for completing levels. There is this end results screen where it shows which collectibles you've grabbed and it totals up your vinyl. Again, much like the LEGO games, there are loads of collectibles, which we're going to get into in a bit. Now at this point, the game gives you the option of continuing with Hot Fuzz, or you can advance to the next floor in the Wonderworks factory to start a different franchise if you want. But to keep things organized, we're going to continue with level 2 of Hot Fuzz, Rumble in the Ruin. So most of the levels in this game will begin where the last one left off, and I'm going to try to switch to different characters for each level. So for this one, we're going to use the pop box to switch over to Doris Thatcher. Characters will have different ranged weapon types, like Danny Butterman uses a shotgun, Nicholas Angel uses his pistols, and so forth. Characters also have different stats for things like health, speed, and stamina, so they each have their own feel. Some characters like Doris Thatcher have a shield that you can use to block attacks, which you'll see me use here in a bit. But anyways, when you step outside, it's now nighttime. So with Funko Fusion, a lot of the times the level layouts will be reused with some changes. Now the area where the cathedral was in the last level is now blocked off, but we now have access to a ruins area, and obviously it's nighttime, so that also changes the whole aesthetic of the level. This time we're tasked with following Michael Armstrong. He's going to lead you to the ruins where we get our first taste of combat outside of the tutorial as we fight these cult members. The ones with a blue glow are pretty standard enemies. The yellow ones, however, are like snipers who keep their distance. They're a little tricky because eventually your ranged weapon will no longer do damage to them, so you need to get in close with a melee attack to finish them off. After solving a puzzle with the CCTV cameras, this leads to another room with another wave of enemies. This time I'll use the nearby red mold machine to craft some grenades to use against them. And then afterwards there's this puzzle where you need to line up this power cable to get to the next area. Here in the gardens, I want to go over some of the collectibles that you'll find throughout the game. Silver chests are all over the place, where opening them gives you a silver crown. I'd say silver crowns are like the main collectible in this game, sort of similar to mini kits in the LEGO games. There's 7 of them in each level. This one was basically a freebie, but others will require a bit more work. For example, each level has one of these vinyl tubes or chutes where you need to deposit a specific amount of vinyl to get the silver crown inside. This encourages you to destroy objects and open wooden chests for vinyl, similar to filling up the true stud bar in the LEGO games. In the garden, you may also come across this glowing brain and bone. This is a Foxo body part. Remember how Eddie messed up Foxo during the tutorial of the game? Well, now you need to find his hidden body part in each level of the game in order to rebuild him and eventually unlock him as a playable character. I'll talk about some of the other collectibles later on, but there's around 12 of them to find in each level. Now, this isn't a collectible, but I do want to show off this Funko Soda vending machine. This will give you one free can of Funko Soda. These are kind of scattered throughout some of the levels. These don't heal as much health as the bottles that you'd buy from a green mold machine, but they're better than nothing. So anyway, once you finish off all the enemies, you can grab the fun key, walk into the shed, and grab the gold crown to finish the level. Next up is the Village People, and this one has a pretty cool opening cutscene of Nicholas Angel arming himself up for battle, but for this one we're going to use Danny Butterman. He's equipped with a shotgun, which is typically a 1 or 2 shot kill at close range. Anyway, the objective of this level is to take out the 3 ringleaders. Before we get started though, I'm going to use this gold chest, which cost 3,000 vinyl to open, which will give you some useful weapons and items. This might actually be my favorite Hot Fuzz level just because it gives you access to almost the entire Hot Fuzz world, and you can tackle each ringleader in whichever order that you want. The first one that we're going to do is found in the ruins, and you need to solve a blacklight camera puzzle to get access to him. When you finally reach him, he does have some colorful things to say, but this guy is a bullet sponge, so I'm going to drink this red Funko soda that I got from the gold chest earlier, which is a double damage soda. As the name suggests, this makes it so all your attacks do double damage, allowing you to take out this ringleader twice as fast. Once we make it into town, the second ringleader will be waiting for you. He's pretty straightforward to beat though. The final one is a little further into town, and he requires you to shoot the scaffolding that he's standing on first. That'll cause him to fall off, then you can do some damage. Repeat that about 3 times, and he's finished. Once all 3 bosses are done, you can grab the fun key, which will bring you to the Crown Inn, where yet another boss fight takes place against the bartenders. This fight is kind of interesting as you can't damage the enemies directly. You need to shoot the objects above them in order for them to fall on top of their big Funko heads. But once they're taken care of, you can grab the gold crown and end the level. Hot Fuzz level 4 is called Aisle 4 Uproar. I like the opening cutscene to this one where Simon Skinner just absolutely launches this swan. But right away, Simon is going to retreat into the Funko Field grocery store. There's quite a bit of puzzle solving that you need to do to get inside. You have to use a CCTV camera to open up this first gate. Then you need several shopping carts placed together to bust in the door. Getting these shopping carts in place involves solving a blacklight camera crime scene, hitting a dumpster, and more. Once inside, we have a boss fight with Michael Armstrong. This one is pretty chaotic. He's basically like the Rhino from Spider-Man, where he's going to charge in a straight line at you. The goal is to get him to run into these little teddy bear displays, which will distract him, allowing you to get in some damage. Repeat this across all the displays around the store, and you'll get this level's fun key for defeating him. This leads to the back of the store where you need to solve one more crime scene, then the level ends. Now it's time for the 5th and final Hot Fuzz level, which is called Model Citizens. This one definitely has the smallest playable area of any of the Hot Fuzz levels. You hop outside the store as Simon Skinner once again retreats into another area. Before you can chase him though, you may have noticed a red glowing enemy like this one in some of the levels. If you see one, be sure to defeat them as they will drop a red protopart piece. Each level has one to find, and if you find all 5 in a world, you will unlock that world's weapon, which can then be crafted at any red mold machine throughout the game. Those weapons will often have special abilities, so you might want to check them out. Make sure to be fast though, as these red glowing enemies will disappear after about 30 seconds or so, forcing you to restart the level if you want to try getting them again. But anyway, let's get back to chasing down Simon Skinner. There's a CCTV camera where we need to do some puzzle solving to figure out the passcode. You basically need to hit a few things, which ultimately causes this fan to blow and reveal the 2864 passcode. Enter that, and you're in the boss fight arena. Simon Skinner is no joke. He's invincible most of the time, but when he does this spin attack, you can shoot him, then go in for some melee attacks. Repeat this a few times until he's defeated. In the cutscene, he slips on a model car and ends up getting stabbed through his non-existent Funko mouth on this model cathedral. Absolutely brutal. But the fight isn't over yet. Eddie takes over this police officer who dropped in. And much like the Foxo fight during the tutorial, the goal is to shoot off the purple goop and deposit it into this nearby device. Once that's done, you can call in backup. For Hot Fuzz, it's this giant swan, which will fight the edified police officer for a bit, and then Eddie will be defeated. When defeating the main boss of a world, Eddie will retreat and give you a special world crown. Back at the top floor of the Wonderworks factory, you can deposit world crowns into the crown chute. This will unlock these videos, which sort of slowly reveal the backstory behind Eddie Funko. By the way, Eddie Funko is voiced by Clancy Brown, also known as Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob, which is pretty cool. He's the only fully voice-acted character in the game, but even then, it's only during these cutscenes. From this point, you can use your gold crowns to head to the next floor down in the Wonderworks factory. The game will ask which world will you save next. So yes, this game can be played in any order that you want, which is pretty cool. For this video though, I'm going to be playing in the order that was actually recommended to me by the developers back when the game released. So for this next one, we're going to do John Carpenter's The Thing by selecting RJ McCready. The Thing's floor is this really neat, snowy Antarctica environment. Yes, somehow it's even snowing indoors. But let's not waste any more time by jumping into The Thing Level 1, Husky Hustle. This level was actually used for a demo that was released for the PC version on Steam, which makes sense because this is one of the best levels in the game in my opinion. It's very open-ended. You have access to the entirety of Outpost 31 and the surrounding areas. The goal is to rescue all 6 Huskies that are scattered across the open world. Meanwhile, there's going to be these Norwegian guys attacking you for a good chunk of the time. Here we are introduced to the gadget or ability for the Thing world, which is the gas canister. You can place these gas canisters near ice, which causes them to explode, melting it down. Inside this building is where the first Husky is located. There's also a blue protopart in here, and once you find 2 more, you unlock the ability to mold gas canisters from any blue mold machine in the game. The next Husky is rescued in a similar manner where you need to melt down the ice on this vehicle to get him out. The Huskies will follow you, so we're going to go ahead and drop these first 2 off at the cage. I'll just quickly go over the remaining 4 Husky locations. There's one behind this security clearance door where the key card for it is conveniently located right next to the door. You have to shoot gas canisters over in this inaccessible area, melt the ice, and shoot the locks. Then the Husky will make his way towards you. One Husky is located behind the facility outside. Again, melt the ice, then shoot the lock to free him. Another Husky is behind a red vinyl door. Anytime you see a red vinyl object like that in the game, you can use a gas canister to melt it down. The Husky will be waiting in that room. And then the final Husky requires a bit more work. There's this heated pipe mechanic that the game uses somewhat frequently. You can shoot the tip of this pipe to create fire, giving you the security clearance card. Inside, you have to solve this puzzle involving wheels and gas canisters. You essentially need to redirect the heat in the pipes in order to get the security level 2 keycard. This leads to the laundry room where the last Husky is waiting. I just now realized that the laundry room has the highest security in the entire facility. Makes perfect sense. Once you've rescued all 6 Huskies, there's a mini-boss against this Norwegian helicopter guy. Just keep shooting him, and eventually there will be a brutal cutscene where he gets stabbed in the head by one of the helicopter blades. There will then be a final 7th Husky that you need to escort back to the cage. This will give you the fun key, and that's pretty much it for this level. Before we move on to level 2, I did want to go over a couple things regarding the collectibles. In addition to red protoparts that enemies are often carrying, there's also a green protopart in each level. These are always found in green treasure chest. In this level, the green chest is covered in ice, so you can just use a gas canister to melt it down. If you collect all 5 green protoparts in a world, you'll unlock a new Funko soda that can be crafted at any green mold machine. Some of these include double damage soda, stamina soda, which allows you to run longer, speed soda, which makes you super fast, invisibility soda, so you can go invisible from enemies, and there's even an invincibility soda, which makes you immune to damage for a couple of minutes. Pretty cool. In terms of silver crowns, each level typically has what I would call a multi-step silver crown, where you need to shoot multiple items in order for the silver chest to open. In this level, there were 5 snowmen scattered around the level. Once you shoot them all, you can get the silver crown. But alright, let's get back to the main story with The Thing Level 2, Bark in the Dark. Before we start this one, I did want to show off this feature. Unlike the LEGO games where you need to play through a level in story mode, then again in free play, in Funko Fusion you're essentially always in free play mode, or as it's called in this game, fun play mode. So we've already played through Hot Fuzz, so if we wanted, we could switch to a Hot Fuzz character and play with him through these Thing levels. Pretty neat. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to stick to the story characters for the most part. So we're going to use Childs. Childs is one of the only characters in this game who has the flamethrower ability. So essentially, he's able to melt red vinyl objects, like the gas canister, but without needing a gas canister. This is going to make this level in particular much easier. Now the whole facility is in lockdown mode. If we head to the Husky cage, the Huskies have been transformed into Dog Thing. This boss fight has a few different phases. During the first phase, after damaging the thing a little bit, you'll need to flame these 3 glowing red dogs that are attached to the boss. You could do this with gas canisters, but it's so much easier with Child's flamethrower, especially with all the Thing dogs attacking you during this fight. During the second phase, the Dog Thing will hang from the ceiling and shoot acid at you. Just keep shooting at the glowing weak spots to progress into the final phase. At this point, the boss is just a big blob. You need to shoot all the glowing yellow spots. Eventually, his yellow body will glow red, and then you can use the flamethrower or gas canister on it, and Dog Thing will be defeated, giving you the fun key. There's a bunch of collectibles around the area to do, but for now we're going to grab the gold crown and end the level. Next up is the Thing level 3, Bloodhounded. This level is probably the most unique of all the Thing levels because it mostly takes place in a new environment. For this one, you'll be in darkness most of the time, and you need to shoot and follow the trail of flares to progress. Eventually, you'll reach a building where you need to do some puzzle solving with a bunch of heated pipes and steering wheels. By the way, if you get hit too many times by any of the Thing enemies, your character will transform into a Thing variant of that character. It's a pretty cool touch, and letting your character get transformed will actually unlock that Thing variant as a selectable skin in the character selection menu. Anyway, this level also introduces a new enemy type, the Norwegian Thing. These guys are a bit tougher than the Thing dogs. You'll end up finding this alien spaceship, and you have to use the flame from gas canisters to reach the middle, where you find a blood bag. In this game's storyline, Eddie Funko himself has combined with the Thing, which is a fun little twist on the Thing storyline. This gives you the fun key, and you pretty much just have to backtrack through the snowy tundra until you get back to Outpost 31, where the level ends. Moving on to the Thing level 4, Head Hunted. This takes place at the main building where Blair goes completely insane and starts blowing up the place. In this one, you'll be chasing Blair. He'll stop in various rooms where you need to cause the gas canister that he's holding to explode in his hands. Just be careful because when he leaves the room, he throws like 50 grenades at once, so you gotta get out of there. This level also introduces the creepy Thing head enemies. These guys will attach to your head, and you have to mash the A or X button to get them off. I find Knowles to be a great character for this one since he has some sort of a grenade launching pistol, which is perfect for destroying Blair's gas canisters. I also like how Knowles rollerblades around. It's a unique animation that I think only is used for his character. The fight ends up outside where there's a mini Blair boss fight where he has all these enemies attached to him. He'll then retreat into this underground shed where he's now taken over by Eddie. Defeat him once again and he'll retreat into another room, ending the level. The finale of the Thing is called Blair Scare, and this one takes place in a new area. There will be some tentacles sticking out of the ground, so you can use gas canisters or Child's flamethrower to burn them. This will give you some purple goop that you can deposit into the nearby machine. Enemies will attack you each time you burn the tentacles, so watch out for that. Once you've gathered about 30 pieces of goop, the final boss, Blair Thing, will reveal himself. Much like the other bosses, you need to shoot the purple goop off him and continue depositing it into the machine. Once it's all full, the mysterious figure from the Thing's movie poster appears and starts fighting Blair Thing. But once he's defeated, Eddie will back off and give you a new world crown. Pop the world crown down the crown chute, and we see a new video of Eddie. This one just shows him making his minions, or creepoids as they're called in this game, but it doesn't really reveal much in terms of backstory. With that, we can head downstairs and choose the next character and franchise to play, which will be Owen Grady from Jurassic World. I'd say Jurassic is probably this game's biggest, most well-known franchise, so I imagine a lot of people jumped into this one first. The Jurassic World floor has a nice jungle aesthetic to it, which I like, but let's jump into Jurassic World Level 1, Dilopho Saw Us. Starting off in this Funko Ice Pop store, Jurassic World has been completely overtaken by dinosaurs, and Eddie has taken over the Indominus Rex. This is definitely one of my favorite levels in the game, and the one I've played the most by far. It's pretty straightforward. You basically free roam around the entire entrance area of the park. The goal is to defeat the 5 Dilophosaurus dinosaurs scattered throughout the area, but there's a bunch of other dinos and park guards that will get in your way as well. If you deposit 3 blue proto parts, you'll unlock the battery gadget that can be crafted at any blue mold machine. Batteries are used to power up doors and other devices to solve puzzles. They're actually useless when you first craft them. They need to be charged at charging stations found throughout the game. Once charged, they can then be used to do a variety of things like open up this door. Anyway, once all 5 Dilophosauruses are taken care of, you can get the Fun Key to proceed into the Innovation Center, solve a brief puzzle with fuses, and the level ends. Next up is Raptor Rescue, and I'd consider this one another top tier level. This one has a pretty large jungle to explore, and as the level name suggests, you need to go around and rescue 4 raptors. You'll have to unplug 2 batteries to open up the first gate, then you have the choice to go left or right. The left side leads to this caged area where the first raptor is found, and this one requires the most work to rescue. You can jump in and take out all the enemies, but the raptor will still be trapped in the cage. To unlock it, you gotta mold a battery, charge it up, place it here, then move this fuse to the correct spot. Now you can open the cage and get the raptor out. Raptor number 2 is fairly close by. All you gotta do is take out the massive wave of enemies and pull the switch to open the gate. The third raptor is in a cave. Once again, it's pretty easy. Take out the enemies, shoot the 2 locks, rescue the raptor. This one is actually blue from the Jurassic World movies, so that's a nice little Easter egg there. And then the final raptor is rescued the same way, kill all the enemies and open up this cage just before the bridge. Once you have all 4 raptors following you, you can cross over this bridge where the environment completely changes from hot and tropical to cold and icy. You can then drop the raptors off on the helipad, and this will give you the Fun Key to rescue Maisie from the more recent Jurassic World movies. And yeah, by the way, the plot of the Jurassic World levels in this game is sort of a combination of the 3 Jurassic World movies. It doesn't directly adapt any singular movie. The final cutscene features a cameo from Alan Grant and Ian Malcolm, where Maisie gets swallowed up by the Giganotosaurus, I think is how you say it, or whatever it's called. This leads us to Jurassic World Level 3, Gigabytes. Compared to the last 2 levels, this one is much more linear and closed in. There's several puzzles involving steering wheels, fire traps, bounce pads, and more. The ultimate goal is to place these 2 wheels on these 2 pipes, which will put out the fire, leading into a boss fight against the giant dinosaur that swallowed Maisie in the last level. It's kind of interesting to have a major boss fight on level 3. You need to shoot its yellow eyes, which will then expose a weak spot on its belly. This thing has a ton of health, so the fight can go on for a few minutes, but once it's defeated, you rescue Maisie and Owen puts her in a gyrosphere, which will come into play in the next level, Pyro Gyro. So this one is an escort level. You need to stick close to Maisie's gyro to keep it moving through the level. This one's pretty cinematic as well, as there's this big volcano erupting on the island as you're moving through it. Unfortunately, if you're playing on console, this level seems to run the poorest in the game, so definitely expect some frame drops here. And you may notice the layout for this level is reused from Raptor Rescue. Anyway, every now and then there will be some sort of a roadblock where you need to solve a puzzle to keep the gyrosphere moving, usually involving batteries. There's even a cameo from the edified Indominus Rex grabbing the gyrosphere as a reference to the first Jurassic World film. This level ends where the Raptor Rescue level began. Maisie gets rescued by Alan Grant's helicopter, and the 4 main characters proceed back to the park's entrance. Jurassic World Level 5 is Main Street Melee, and this level reuses the layout from Dilophosaurus, but this time it's at night. After you exit the Innovation Center, you get a cool cutscene of the edified Indominus Rex terrorizing Main Street. This fight is pretty intense as there's just a lot of enemy spam while you're trying to fight Eddie. Expect lots of raptors and sniper security guards getting in your way. And by the way, why exactly are these security guards even attacking our characters? Like, shouldn't they be trying to stop Eddie too? It doesn't make much sense to me, but maybe we're not supposed to think about it too closely. But like all the other world bosses, focus on shooting off the purple goop and depositing it into the machine. During this initial phase, Eddie will mostly just walk back and forth down Main Street, so the smaller enemies are going to be most of the problem. Once you get all 30 pieces of purple goop, a Funko T-Rex will appear to assist you. As always, you can wait about 30 seconds, and then another cutscene will play showing Eddie's Indominus Rex getting defeated by the Mosasaurus. Very similar to the film, actually. By the way, I did have this treasure chest glitch out of me where I just couldn't open it. You'll definitely encounter little minor bugs like this when playing Funko Fusion. But back to the story. So Eddie will leave behind the next world crown, so we can go ahead and drop it into the crown chute. I haven't mentioned it yet, but floating up and down this elevator between the floors and the Wonderworks factory is always pretty satisfying. It's a cool little addition to the hub. Unfortunately, it's not featured in the PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch versions of the game. You're going to have to use the stairs there. Back at the crown chute, the next cutscene reveals Eddie building his initial body that we saw during one of the initial tutorial cutscenes, but we're still not getting much backstory just yet. But now with 3 world crowns collected, we can move deeper into the factory. We'll select Battlestar Galactica as the 4th world. This one is based on the original 1970s version of Battlestar, not the newer one from the 2000s. I knew basically nothing about the show before playing this game, but I think the 2000s version might actually be more popular, so maybe it was kind of an odd decision to go with the 70s one. I'm not sure. As expected, this floor is modeled after the Galactica ship, but let's begin at Battlestar Galactica Level 1, The Sound of Cylons. In the story for this one, Eddie has taken over the Imperious leader, who is a major villain in Battlestar Galactica. This first level is a bit unique since it's the only level to not take place on a spaceship. The objective here is to escort Serena and Boxy to an escape ship. The Battlestar Galactica characters are all equipped with laser blasters, which have the ability to shoot these specific targets that you'll see throughout the game, which will typically open doors or solve some sort of obstacle. When you collect 3 blue protoparts in this world, you'll unlock the Sentry Turret. You can place these down, and they're primarily used to shoot these green X targets, which you'll need to shoot periodically to progress through the game. They can also just simply be placed down to help clear out enemies. But once you battle through all the Cylon enemies, you'll reach the escape ship where the level ends. Battlestar Galactica Level 2 is called Frack Attack. Our characters have escaped the planet and landed on the Galactica ship. This level is simply a defense level where you're guarding your escape ship from waves and waves of Cylons. It all takes place in this one large hangar bay. I'm using Athena, who has a pretty unique minigun-like weapon, which has sort of a charge up to get it going at its full fire rate. And since this is a defense level, I'd recommend putting up a couple sentry turrets around the area to help clear out some enemies. Overall, there's really not much more to say about this one. After you defeat all the waves of enemies, you'll get the fun key, which will lead us deeper into the Galactica. Up next is Rough Fit Muffet. This is a much lengthier, mostly linear level, but there are some split paths you can take as well. Right at the start, you're introduced to a new mechanic, these colored reflecting crystals. You simply shoot them with a laser gun to hit the matching target. This first one is a red crystal, so shooting it will enable you to hit these red targets. This gets trickier later on and is used quite a bit for puzzles throughout the game. The objective for this level is to find 4 pieces to this Muffet robot dog and bring them back to this room. The first piece is found in this room. You just need to place this blue crystal here, then use that to shoot the blue target, allowing you to lower this force field where the first Muffet piece is. The second piece is found in this room that's locked by a green target, so a sentry turret is needed to open it. Once inside, you need to shoot 2 yellow targets through a yellow crystal. It's a little tricky because the crystal is constantly sliding to the right unless you stand on this pressure pad. But once you solve that, you'll have piece number 2. After you progress a little deeper into the ship, there will be another door that requires a sentry turret. Inside, there's some more Cylons and a puzzle that requires you to place a yellow and blue crystal in the correct spots, then shoot them to open up a small room which has the third Muffet piece, in addition to a freebie silver crown chest. You then need to move the yellow crystal to the hallway to open up the door to the next area. This will lead to a room with a giant red crystal in the middle. I'll just say, these are some of the most annoying puzzles in the game. So there's these beds, I guess is what they are, around the room with red targets on them. You have to shoot the giant red crystal at the correct angle so it shoots the red target on the bed, which has the 4th Muffet piece. What's the correct angle though? No one knows. It's kind of just trial and error as you keep shooting it at different angles and distances until it finally hits the red target that you need. If anyone happens to have a reliable way of hitting these things correctly, please let me know. But once you've rebuilt Muffet, the game gives the fun key to the final area. Get ready for a massive showdown against some Cylons, including a gold Cylon, which has a ton of health and requires you to alternate between gunfire and melee attacks. But once they're all defeated, use a sentry turret to open up the final door into the room with the gold crown. Level 4 is called Ovian and Out, and this one is a search and rescue for 4 characters from the Battlestar Galactica franchise. In this one, you get a little break from the Cylons and have to fight these Ovian alien enemies. This level feels pretty similar to the last one. It's a lot of narrow hallways with multiple pathways to go down. You'll find the first character, Muffet, in this room where you need to use a sentry turret to shoot the green X target, which raises up this platform, allowing Muffet out. Rescuing Boxy is a bit more difficult. There's this room where you need to shoot these 3 red targets on the wall, but to get the red crystal to move, you have to shoot this laser target, so it's sort of a game of shooting back and forth between the crystal and the target on the wall. But once you do that, that'll give you access to this bunk bed room where Boxy is found. After fighting through more waves of enemies, you can drop Muffet and Boxy off in this lounge room of some sort, and that just leaves 2 more characters to go. The next couple of hallways have some enemies and puzzles which will eventually lead to this larger area. Unfortunately, there's another large crystal that you need to shoot at the perfect angles to hit 2 red targets. If you manage to do it, you'll save Adama, who was stuck behind some nukes for some reason. Last up is Serena, who is trapped in this large room inside a tank or something. You need to shoot the laser targets on the tank, but one of them is yellow, so it requires a yellow crystal. Open up this purple chest, grab the yellow crystal, and carry it all the way up the stairs so that you can drop down into position and shoot the tank, rescuing Serena. Once all 4 characters are safe in the lounge, the game will give you the fun key, which will lead to the end of the level. Now it's time for the showdown against the Imperious Leader in Throne Room Doom. I consider this to be the hardest level in the game. This boss fight is no joke. But before you get to the boss, there's a puzzle here at the beginning where you need to only shoot the laser targets that reveal a green wire. Don't shoot any ones with a red wire. Solving 2 of these puzzles will give you 2 reflector crystals. You need to step on the pressure pad to stop this rotating pedestal at just the right time so that your laser hits the 2 targets. This can be a little tedious because the pedestal alignment is pretty precise. But once you manage to solve that, you're in the boss fight now. So just get ready, there's going to be a million Cylons attacking you. The tower that the Imperious Leader is on will be firing lasers at you as well. The goal is simply to shoot the boss. He'll give you the purple goop, which you can then deposit into the machine. You kind of get the idea by now. The problem is that the boss keeps putting shields up, so you need to do various things to get the shields down, all while getting demolished by enemies and lasers. For example, you need to shoot a laser target with your gun, then you need to grab the crystals from the beginning of the level and place them in specific spots to shoot the yellow and blue targets. You also need to bring in a sentry turret to shoot the green X targets, and then you'll need to do this all over again by moving the different pieces around for the next phase. It just feels like a lot to do while there's all these enemies attacking you. But if you survive all that and get the machine full of purple goop, you can call in a giant version of Muppet to fight the Imperious Leader. Several seconds later, he'll be defeated and Eddie will retreat into the next world. Yeah, this is definitely one of the hardest levels, but I'd say overall Battlestar Galactica might be one of my favorite of the 7 main worlds. I like how all 5 levels have unique layouts, nothing really gets reused like a lot of the other worlds. But now we have another world crown to drop down the chute. This cutscene shows Eddie's hatred for Freddy as he gains his traditional appearance and sort of shows how he gets the Eddie name. Freddy then wonders why Eddie hates him so much, but maybe we'll find out soon. The next world we're visiting is the Umbrella Academy. To be honest, I know absolutely nothing about the Umbrella Academy other than what's shown in this game, and somehow it's raining indoors while you're on this floor and you hear some somber music. It's a little creepy, but let's begin Umbrella Academy Level 1, House Hunters. To be honest, this is probably my least favorite level in the game. This one just feels like it drags on way too long and the layout can be pretty confusing. The goal is to defeat Hazel and Cha-Cha, so there's a Hazel pathway through the level and a second Cha-Cha pathway. We'll start with Cha-Cha. Right off the bat, there's a boss fight with her. You'll then chase her upstairs where you need to pull on several of these switches to progress to the next area. In this section, the game introduces you to the blink or teleport ability that the number 5 character has. When you see these yellow arrows, you can teleport to another area. It's pretty cool, and like a lot of other abilities, it's used throughout the entire game. Eventually, you end up in this hallway where you fight her in several different rooms until Cha-Cha is defeated. Honestly, this feels long enough to be a level, but now you need to go back to the beginning and take the other path for Hazel. This is where the game introduces you to another new ability, the Rumor ability. It's essentially a Jedi mind trick, and Allison is the only character in the game to have this ability. How this mechanic works is there will be a character blocking your path, and you need to rumor them to get past. Anyway, you chase Hazel throughout the house until you get to this area where you need to drop these chandeliers onto him. Once both enemies are defeated, you get the Fun Key. This leads to a final area where you need to grab 3 blue protoparts to unlock the gramophone gadget. I'd say this is probably the least used gadget in the entire game, but it is used every now and then for these Umbrella Academy levels. It just plays music, and this will get certain characters to do things for you. Once you use it in the final room, the level ends. The Umbrella Academy level 2 is called Beats on the Streets. This one is an escort mission, and it's a lot more open than the last one. You're going to be escorting this Luther character across the level, but he'll only move when the gramophone is near him. The problem is that the gramophone doesn't work in puddles of water, so periodically you'll need to do some sort of puzzle solving to get Luther across the water. For example, this first instance, you need to go into the nearby building to get a steering wheel for this pipe, which drains the water. Next, you need to turn on the speaker system of this restaurant to kind of get him across the water gap. You'll then need to use Allison's Rumor ability to get this NPC character to play music across this water. This leads to the coolest part of this level where you need to cut through this bowling alley. The lighting effects are just super cool here. But shortly after the bowling alley, Luther will make it to his destination, the theater where the game gives you the Fun Key. Inside, there's going to be a bunch of dudes you gotta take out, but once you do, you'll find the Victor character, a laser beam will come from the moon or something, and the level will end. Yeah, I have no idea what's going on in the story of the Umbrella Academy, but it looks pretty wild to me. This leads to level 3, Commission Mission. I'd call this one a very puzzle-based level, and it mostly takes place in 2 hallways. I'm going to try using the Diego Umbrella Academy character for this one, but to be honest, number 5 and Allison's abilities are just used too frequently that Diego and Klaus from the Umbrella Academy are basically useless characters. Anyway, when you walk into this library room, there's a mini boss fight against this lady. When she's defeated, you'll get a scroll. I'm not going to show how you get all of them, but you need to collect several of these throughout these 2 hallways. And again, number 5's Blink ability and Allison's Rumor ability are used pretty frequently to get these scrolls. You need to teleport through these rooms and flip specific switches, rumor these NPC characters who refuse to give up their scroll, and so on. Once you get all the scrolls, your character will start talking about the apocalypse or something. Yeah, again, I have no idea what's going on, but it'll lead you upstairs to another boss fight against that old lady. Now, I'm not sure if my game bugged here, but I was basically only shooting the boss and ignoring the other enemies. This caused the enemies to just keep spawning in until there was like 30 plus of these red gas mask guys all around the room. It was pretty insane, but surprisingly the game wasn't lagging or anything like that. But once she's defeated, you can grab the key card and get the gold crown to finish the level. 2 Spry Samurai is up next, and that just might be my favorite level name in the game. This one is pretty short and very Asian themed. Right at the start, there's this cool blue hallway. I have no idea what this is supposed to be, but it does look pretty cool. Shortly after that, you end up in this green hallway where you will encounter one of 2 giant samurais. The goal here is to use number 5's Blink ability to appear behind the samurai and then shoot him in his weak spot in the back of his head. This samurai can be pretty deadly, and you might want to mold a Funko soda to keep your health up. Just keep teleporting behind him and eventually he'll be defeated. The second samurai is found in a laundry room. You need to stun the samurai by shooting at him, then use the gramophone to cause him to dance, then shoot him into the washing machine. Repeat this a second time and samurai number 2 will be defeated. Grab the fun key, head to the elevator, and that's a wrap for this one. Now it's time for the finale of the Umbrella Academy, Oblivion Begin Again. This one is another pretty short level. Umbrella Academy is definitely more front-loaded when it comes to level content. But starting off on this one, you need to step on these 7 stars for the boss to spawn in. This guy is like another beefier samurai, but you won't be able to do much to him. He's going to chase you around the area, and you need to find those 7 stars and place them back on the floor where they were at the start of the level. Some will be upstairs, some will be in purple chests, so just walk around everywhere until you find them all. This will give you the fun key where the boss fight against Eddie begins. So in this level, Eddie has taken over the Reginald character. Now during this boss fight, you won't be able to move at all, which causes a lot of people to think that the game is bugged, but no, not this time. You just need to shoot all the attacks, which will give you the purple goop for the machine. Once you have enough goop, a giant monkey will come in to defeat Eddie. I love the animation of the monkey just smacking Eddie around. Man, as an outsider of the Umbrella Academy, this show seems pretty bizarre. But anyway, Eddie will retreat, giving you another world crown. Dropping this crown down the chute will unlock another backstory cutscene of Eddie planning his attack on Freddy to get his gold crown. Eddie must be stopped, so let's move further down the factory and choose the next world, which will be Masters of the Universe. You gotta love the cel-shaded art style that they gave this world. It replicates the cartoon super well. Just watch out for the lava that's on this floor, it actually does hurt you. But anyways, let's begin at level 1, Tower Power Play. Hopefully none of you watching chose Masters of the Universe as your first world because, in my opinion, this is a terrible first level to the game. Get ready for a ton of combat and enemy spam. Right off the bat, you're introduced to this world's portal gadget. You can press the Y or triangle button to link up 2 portals together, then you can instantly travel between them. This might be one of the coolest gadgets in the game, and it's used in a lot of clever ways. You can collect 3 blue proto parts here to unlock this gadget for use in all of the other worlds. Continuing down this slope, this is where the rest of the level takes place. This is kind of similar to the second Battlestar Galactica level, where you're just kind of staying in one area and taking out waves of enemies, including Merman from the show. Again, this level can be pretty difficult, especially if you selected this one as your first world. Eventually an edified Skeletor will show up, and you get to transform from Prince Adam into He-Man. I'm not even super familiar with the show, but I must say it feels pretty hype when you transform with the classic theme playing in the background. He-Man's unique ability is that he can destroy gold vinyl objects with his sword, allowing you to defeat Skeletor for now. And that's going to be pretty much it for this first one. Level 2 is called Immortal with a Portal. This one begins by using portals to get across this partially destroyed bridge. On the other side, the level opens up quite a bit, with the objective being to find 4 pieces of the pedestal that allows you to transform back into He-Man. As you'd expect, you need to use portals to get each one, and use them in pretty clever ways. I won't go into detail on how you get them all, but I particularly like this one where there's this blocked door with a portal behind it, so you can link your portal up with that one, then shoot through it to hit a switch in the room on the other side. There's also this last one where there's 4 symbols, and you need to pull the switches with the corresponding symbols in the same order. However, the switches are kind of far away from each other, and they need to be pulled quickly. So you need to strategically place portals so that you can teleport to each one of the switches in time. But once you rebuild the pedestal, you can transform back into He-Man, where you can destroy this gold vinyl object that's in the way. This allows you to get underneath Skeletor's ship to destroy it, giving you the fun key. Masters of the Universe level 3 is called Snake Mountain Outing. This is probably my favorite of the He-Man levels, and it's great how this one uses a unique level layout that none of the other levels use. The objective here is to climb up Snake Mountain while defeating 3 He-Man villains. Towards the right side is Triclops. You need to watch out for his laser attacks, but his most annoying attack in my opinion is his ground slam every time he jumps off that cliff. So just be ready to jump over that one. Once Triclops is defeated, you can make your way over to the left side of the map. You need to use portals pretty heavily to navigate up the mountain, and that'll lead you to the next villain, which is Trapjaw. Once you use portals to cross over the bridge, you need to transform into He-Man to destroy the gold vinyl rocks that he stands on. Do that about 3 times and Trapjaw will be defeated. You can then head into the mountain where you encounter the final villain, Evil Lynn. She has a force field that you need to shoot through, then she has an attack where she duplicates herself into multiple smaller versions. Once all of them are taken care of, she then has a brief window where you can get some damage in. Repeat that about 3 times and she'll explode, leaving behind the fun key. The 4th level is Shock Amuck, and this might be my least favorite of the Masters of the Universe world. This is another escort level where you need to escort who I believe is the Sorceress of Castle Grayskull. She's unconscious while riding this attack track vehicle that moves as long as you're near it. You'll notice that this level mostly reuses the layout from the 2nd level, except this time it's raining and you're playing it in reverse. As with all the other escort missions, periodically there's going to be some sort of roadblock and you need to do some clever puzzle solving with the portals to keep things moving. Merman even makes his return from the 1st level, but this time you need to electrocute him in this pool of water. Later on, Beastman makes an appearance. You need to get him to destroy this electrical contraption so you can use the He-Man pedestal, then you can transform and destroy the gold vinyl object that he's standing on. There's then one final section where you need to use portals to reconstruct the bridge, but once you reach the other side, the level ends. This leads us to the final He-Man level, Scare Mare. You'll notice that this one reuses the 1st level's layout, except once again it's now in reverse and raining. And this one wastes no time in getting you into the boss fight with Skeletor and Scare Mare. The first thing is to transform into He-Man and take out these gold rocks. Behind them is a fuse and a blue mold machine used to obtain a portal. You can then use the portal to reach these towers, each which have a spot where you can place the fuse. The fuse will create an electrical trap, forcing Skeletor onto the ground where you can gather up some purple goop and deposit it into the machine. So you essentially just repeat this process across a few of the towers until you have enough goop to power up the machine. I found this fight to be pretty challenging just due to all the enemies and whatnot. It's not on the same level as Battlestar Galactica's final fight, but it's pretty far up there. Filling up the machine calls in a giant Cringer, I believe he's called, who assists you in defeating the edified Skeletor. Eddie once again retreats while dropping another world crown. This world crown reveals a cutscene showing Eddie in all the different worlds, again planning his attack against Freddy. Pretty much all the dialogue in this one was used in the trailer for the game. It is some great voice acting from Clancy Brown.
So get ready, Freddy.
Freddy Funko then tells us that he should be able to regain his strength with one more world crown. So all that's left now is Scott Pilgrim versus the world. I like how this floor of the factory has a kind of snowy street atmosphere. If we try to go deeper into the next floor down, there's a mysterious under construction sign, and we can see that the floating elevator doesn't go any lower. Interesting. But for now, let's go ahead and start Scott Pilgrim level 1, Irate Pirate. In the opening cutscene, Eddie has now taken over Gideon Graves. This first level takes place at a music venue where the objective is to defeat 4 hipster chicks. These hipster chicks are scattered around the area and they can be a little annoying to defeat. For example, with this first one, you have to shoot her with your ranged weapon, then mash the melee button for several seconds, then repeat this again a 2nd time. The amount of meleeing you have to do just seems a bit unnecessary. I believe you originally had to do that cycle 3 times, so they did reduce it a little bit in a later patch. Anyways, Scott Pilgrim is a guitar character and they have the ability to use amps. Amps are super important for puzzles and even traversal, and collecting 3 blue protoparts in the Scott Pilgrim levels will unlock them at the blue mold machines for use in all the other worlds. Amps have a yellow treble mode that when you shoot it with a guitar character, it'll break weak glass objects. If you melee an amp, you can switch it over to bass mode, which will allow you to hover over gaps through the sound waves, I guess. So you're going to use these abilities to defeat all 4 hipster chicks, then you have to fight Matthew Patel. He's super easy, you just have to melee him a few times. This will give you a little token allowing you outside where the level ends shortly thereafter. Next is Double Trouble, where a Funko version of Chris Evans makes an appearance. This level all takes place in this one arena where you need to fight all the Lucas stunt doubles. Similar to the hipster chicks in the last level, this one originally dragged on quite a bit longer but was shortened in later patches. One stunt double requires you to shoot these spotlights in a specific order, so it's important to be accurate and fast with your aiming. Another stunt double is at the top of some scaffolding, so you have to make your way up while jumping over barrels, very classic Donkey Kong style. This third stunt double is the easiest one, where you just need to hit his lift over and over again until he drops down. And that's essentially the entire level. You will need to defeat those 3 doubles a second time. Lucas will at one point drive around in a car that you need to avoid. He'll trap himself in a van that you need to use an amp to get him out, but eventually he'll be defeated and you can exit the area and grab that gold crown. Scott Pilgrim level 3 is called Vegan and Again. In this one you need to defeat Todd and Roxy. Here I want to highlight an example of one of the bigger issues that I have with this game regarding its characters. So I wanted to use Ramona Flowers for this level, but right away you're required to use the amp to break this weak glass into the coffee shop. So now I need to switch over to a guitar character, and I can't play as Ramona. I suppose it's similar in the LEGO games when you need to switch characters with certain abilities, but in those games, switching characters is a much more on-the-fly process. Usually you have your co-op partner that you can switch over to instantly, or you can use the shoulder buttons to quickly swap between characters. In Funko Fusion, however, you need to find a pop box, pull up the character roster, and then select the character. And then of course you would need to repeat that process again to switch back to the character that you want to play as, so it's much more tedious. I think if they make a sequel, they need to consider redesigning the pop box system. Maybe make it so you can spawn a pop box on you at any time just to make character switching a lot more seamless. But anyway, that was a huge tangent. Back to the level. On the right side of the level, you'll encounter Todd. You can use an amp's base ability to force him to eat chicken despite him being vegan, which will defeat him. Roxy is on the left side of the level, and this one is more of a traditional boss fight. She'll do a spin attack where you need to get her to ram into objects, then drop a disco ball looking thing onto her head. But once Todd and Roxy are defeated, you'll get the fun key, and the level is pretty much done from there. Up next is Double Dragon, not to be confused with the second level, Double Trouble. But much like the second level, this one pretty much all takes place in one area. There's going to be 2 holographic dragons that need to be defeated. To do that, you need to find several pieces of a mega amp scattered throughout the level. I won't go over all the amp piece locations, but since this is a Scott Pilgrim level, you're going to need to use your own amps to get these pieces. For example, you need to use the base ability to hover over this gap, and the treble ability to break this ice statue. Once the mega amp is built, charge it up, then you can begin attacking the 2 dragons until they're defeated, and give you a token, which gives you the fun key. By the way, I find it kind of odd how in these Scott Pilgrim levels you get a token first, which then gives you the fun key. I don't know, it just seems like an unnecessary step, but outside there will be a couple of guys asking for a password, which you can just one-shot them, which I thought was pretty funny. But that's going to do it for Double Dragon. Now for the finale of Scott Pilgrim, Chaos in the Chaos. This one is pretty short and straightforward. It all takes place in this arena, and you need to defeat a whopping 96 enemies. This sounds like a lot, but luckily they're all one-hit kills, so it only takes a couple minutes. Once those 96 enemies are defeated, the boss fight against the edified Gideon Graves begins. I'd say this is probably one of the easiest Final World boss fights in the game. He'll hover above, and you need to shoot the purple goop off of him. I actually encountered a bug when playing this level where I somehow got pushed through the floor and I had to restart the whole level. Funko Fusion still has some bugs like this, which can be a bit frustrating, but luckily this level is short, so I didn't need to replay too much. Once you have enough goop, a giant Nega Scott will appear to defeat Gideon Graves once and for all. Eddie will be defeated once again, and he'll drop the final world crown. In the final Eddie backstory cutscene, we learn that Freddy Funko unknowingly created Eddie Funko. Eddie is supposed to be the embodiment of all of Freddy's fears and anxieties. But with all 7 world crowns, Freddy is able to partially restore his strength, which also unlocks him as a playable character. Freddy is a pretty cool character to play as. For his sprint animation, he rides on the Back to the Future Part 2 hoverboard. He's also the only character who can destroy these kind of greenish blue doors that you may have seen in some levels throughout the game, but couldn't do anything about them until now. When you try to leave the room though, Eddie will appear and retreat into the heart of creation, which I guess is like the center of the Wonderworks factory where all the power is. So this is going to lead to the final boss. Now we could do this now, and actually I'd recommend doing it as soon as possible if you're playing this game yourself, but we're going to wait and talk about some of the other content that this game has to offer first. Something I haven't talked about yet are the Cameo Levels and Cameo Quest. We'll start with Cameo Levels. One level in each of the 7 main worlds has a hidden cameo level to discover. So essentially there's an additional 7 levels on top of the 35 main world levels, giving this game a total of 42 levels. Yeah, this game is packed with content. Now, you often can't access these cameo levels on your first playthrough since they require you to use specific abilities from the other worlds. For example, in the third level of Hot Fuzz, you can use the gas canister gadget from The Thing and He-Man's ability to destroy gold vinyl objects from Masters of the Universe to solve a puzzle and unlock the Jaws cameo level. Jaws is probably one of my favorite cameo levels, and it's surprisingly brutal with its use of Funko blood. I think I like it because it's more focused on puzzle solving rather than combat or a bunch of enemy spam like a lot of levels have in this game. At the end, you get to put gas canisters in Jaws' mouth to defeat him, and the explosion is pretty violent. In the first level of The Thing, you can discover the Shaun of the Dead cameo level. This might be the longest level in the game. It's an escort mission where you're escorting Ed and Sean's mom, I believe, across the city to get to the Winchester pub. Usually I don't care for the escort missions in this game too much, but this one I like quite a bit. The map is pretty huge as well, so it's definitely fun seeing the town from the movie kind of recreated here. And similar to the Thing enemies, the zombie enemies can actually infect your character if you get hit too many times, which will create a zombie variant of them. You can try infecting every character in the game to unlock their zombie variants to use in any level, so you might be coming back to this one quite a bit. You can find the Back to the Future cameo level within the first level of Jurassic World. This one takes place at the end of the first movie where Marty is about to get back to the future from being stuck in 1955. There's not really any combat in this one. The objective is to find all 4 wheels to the DeLorean, and then at the end there's this time section where you need to bring an antenna up to Doc Brown on the roof. I think the way they recreated the town square of Hill Valley in Funko form is awesome. I do wish they incorporated some content from the sequels though. I would have loved to have been able to play a second part of the level where you can play through the 2015 version of Hill Valley, but hey, maybe they could add that in the next game. Battlestar Galactica Level 3 is holding a cameo level for Jordan Peele's Nope. This is one of the more recent movie franchises that is implemented into this game. The Nope level is massive. It might be the largest map or play space in the entire game. The first objective is to go around inflating these sky dancers. They're like the inflatable things that wave around that you'll often see at car dealerships. Inflating them requires a lot of puzzle solving, mainly revolving around laser guns from Battlestar Galactica and portals from Masters of the Universe. This will lead into the town area called Jupiter's Claim, which was a fairly controversial section due to it being timed. You have to go around cutting off several ropes which are holding down the giant inflatable in the background. Originally you had about 7 minutes to do this. A lot of people complained, so it ended up being changed to 10 minutes in a later patch. It can still be tricky though, and I'd say it's almost impossible to do on your first try unless you watch a video beforehand, just because some of the ropes are pretty obscure. Next, you can find the Invincible cameo level in the first level of the Umbrella Academy. This one is the most annoying to unlock because you basically have to play through the entire House Hunters level to unlock it, and House Hunters is one of the longer levels in the game. But if you manage to unlock it, the Invincible level has a cool cel-shaded effect across the graphics, similar to the Masters of the Universe levels. But personally, I think this is the worst of the cameo levels and possibly one of the worst in the entire game. There's an epic fight going on between Invincible and Omni-Man, but you don't really get to play any of it. Instead, for most of it, you're stuck on the ground moving these colored reflector pieces back and forth over and over again. This level is ridiculously tedious. This actually highlights another issue I have with one of the gameplay mechanics of Funko Fusion. For example, in this level, you have to carry multiple reflector pieces back and forth between 3 different rooms on top of a sentry turret that needs to be carried between them. And then there's also the CSI blacklight that needs to be carried around to solve a few crime scenes that happens throughout the level. So in total, you're having to carry like 15 or 20 things around. It's by far the most tedious level in the game. If we get a sequel, I'd like to see 1010 Games modify this mechanic a bit. Maybe make it so the reflector pieces and the gadgets like the blacklight camera and sentry turret can be carried in your inventory so that you're not physically carrying them around all the time. Also, I didn't even mention how there are infinitely respawning enemies attacking you the entire time while you're trying to carry this stuff around. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Invincible level. The third level of Masters of the Universe is hiding the Mummy cameo level. As you might expect, this one takes place in an Egyptian tomb. If you don't like puzzles, you're probably going to get stuck in a few places in this one. The gramophone and gas canister gadgets are used pretty heavily, so be sure to make use of them. The level does end with a boss fight against the mummy, which is pretty cool. I also like the design of these Egyptian enemies. Overall, I enjoy this one. I wouldn't say it's like my favorite or anything, but it's pretty solid. And that brings us to the final cameo level, which is found in the third level of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. This one is for Five Nights at Freddy's. From what I've seen online, this seems to be the most popular cameo level, and I think a lot of younger gamers bought the game just for this. Much like the Five Nights at Freddy's games, you need to survive 5 nights in this pizza restaurant. This one can actually be a bit scary if you're playing alone at night with headphones on. They did a good job giving this one a creepy atmosphere. The objective is to use the camera system to quickly cycle through each camera. This will cause a coin to spawn. When you collect the coin, it progresses the night forward. And so basically you just need to keep doing that over and over until you survived all 5 nights. It's not quite that simple though, as there will increasingly be more enemies spawning in to interrupt your progress. They'll also unplug the batteries from the cameras, and the coins don't spawn unless you see them through the camera first, so you will need to go around every now and then and replug those back in. But that is pretty much it for the cameo levels. These all have the same collectibles that the main levels have as well, so there's a lot of replayability here. Now let's talk about Cameo Quest. These are quests that you can complete to unlock characters from franchises that don't get a full level or world. There's essentially one cameo quest for each of the 7 worlds. I'll talk briefly about each one of these. Chucky from Child's Play is one of the Cameo Quest characters. He can first be found in Hot Fuzz level 4. Chucky's quest involves playing hide and seek. Once you find him in specific objects around the level, he'll pop out where you need to fight him. Eventually he'll retreat into another world, leaving behind a red protopart. So yeah, each Cameo Quest character does have a weapon that you can unlock at red mold machines, which is associated with that character. But once you find him across 6 more levels, you unlock him as a playable character. Megan, or Mithrigan, from the 2023 film is included in this game. She's first found in the 2nd level of The Thing. She probably has the most annoying quest. All you need to do is fight her, which sounds simple enough, but each time you fight her in a world, the fight drags on longer and longer each time. The most difficult one being in the Scott Pilgrim level. It's just a super closed-in environment, so I recommend doing that one second if you can. But once you defeat her 7 times, you unlock her as a playable character. John Hammond from the original Jurassic Park is another Cameo Quest character. This one is a bit unique in that you need to find a fossil or amber piece across all 42 levels of the game. Once you have all 42 fossils, you can then find John Hammond's secret room in level 2 of Jurassic World. He'll give you a bunch of red protopart pieces for a new weapon, and you'll unlock him as a playable character. Voltron, Legendary Defender, makes his appearance in the 4th level of Battlestar Galactica. Once you find him, you have to look around for a nearby space rock of some sort, then carry it back over to Voltron. After that, there's usually some leftover enemies that need to be taken care of. Voltron will then drop a red protopart piece and leave to be found in another world. Once you complete this quest 6 more times, Voltron is unlocked as a playable character. Michael Knight from Knight Rider makes his cameo in the Umbrella Academy level 2. His quest involves racing him in his car across the level. I highly recommend using a speedy character like the Dilophosaurus or drinking a speed soda for these races. It will make them super easy. Beating him in races across all 7 different worlds will unlock him as a playable character. Xena, Warrior Princess, is found in level 4 of Masters of the Universe. She has a fairly easy quest. When you find her, there will be waves of enemies that spawn in for about a minute or so. Take them all out and Xena will be good to go for that world. As you'd expect, do this across 6 more worlds and she'll be unlocked as a playable character. Level 4 of Scott Pilgrim vs. the World features Capcom's Mega Man as a Cameo Quest character. His quests are escort missions. You need to protect him as he goes from point A to point B across the level. He can get downed where you'll need to revive him to keep him going, so I highly recommend using the Medic character from the Team Fortress 2 DLC, as his gun can actually heal Mega Man's health. Escorting Mega Man across all 7 worlds will unlock him as a playable character. And then the final cameo character is Colonel Sanders from Kentucky Fried Chicken. Colonel Sanders' quest is similar to John Hammond's in that you need to destroy a KFC bucket that's hidden across all 42 levels. Once you've destroyed all 42 of them, you'll find that Colonel Sanders can now be selected when visiting a pop box. But that's going to do it for the Cameo Quest characters. There's a lot of cool, smaller franchises represented here, and it gives the levels even more replayability. Okay, so now that we've covered every level in the game and all the cameo content, it's time to face Eddie Funko in the heart of creation. Get ready for a pretty lengthy boss fight. Eddie will transform himself into 7 creatures, each representing a character from the 7 main worlds. I'm not 100% sure if he transforms in the same order each time, but this is the order that I got. Up first is T-Rex from Jurassic World. You basically just spam your ranged attacks on him over and over again, while smaller enemies from across all the worlds try to attack you. You can always retreat back to the green mold machine at the start of the area when you get low on health, so it's not a particular challenging boss fight, just a lengthy one. During each phase, there will always be some sort of obstacle that comes up that prevents you from damaging them that you have to deal with. For example, here during the T-Rex phase, an ice wall appears, forcing you to use an amp's treble mode to break through it. The second phase is the Thing. This one's pretty straightforward. He will periodically flashbang the screen, which is a minor inconvenience, but it's not really too big of a deal. The third phase is Muffet from Battlestar Galactica. He has a pretty powerful laser attack, so make sure to avoid that. The next phase is Cringer, I believe is what he's called, from Masters of the Universe. This guy will spit out these green acid balls, but I don't find that attack to be all that deadly. And then after that, you'll have to fight the Swan from Hot Fuzz. He will drop in some explosives on you, but again, I don't find them too difficult to dodge. Now after that, you have to fight Nega Scott from Scott Pilgrim, which I think is probably the most challenging phase. He'll make the screen go black and white for several seconds every now and then, which also reverses your controls, so now you need to push right on the stick to go left, up to go down, and so on. This is actually pretty difficult to control, especially when you have all these enemies on you. And then the final phase is Pogo from the Umbrella Academy, the monkey dude. Similar to Muffet, he has a laser that shoots at you, but again, it's not too bad to dodge. Once all 7 phases are complete, there's one final phase where Eddie becomes this giant blob of all 7 creatures. He even has a mouth and starts talking, which is completely unheard of for a Funko Pop. He doesn't actually attack you anymore though, so it's really just a matter of shooting him and listening to the dialogue. The final cutscene has always seemed kind of abrupt to me. Eddie gives up his crown to Freddy, which fully restores his power, and then they just kind of hug it out. I guess they're like best friends now? I feel like there needed to be more build-up or something, but there's no voice acting, so I'm not sure what else they could have done. But after the cutscene, the credits roll, and that is pretty much it. Or is it? There's then an end-credit scene of Freddy's crown partially breaking, showing that you need to collect all the remaining crowns in the game to get the true ending. But we'll get to that here in a bit. Completing the final boss will unlock Eddie Funko as a playable character. He has a special flamethrower that can destroy purple goop, which you may have seen in some of the levels, blocking you off from collectibles, so now you can go back and get those. Alright, now let's talk about some of the bonus content. If you find 12 of the 35 silver crowns in a main world, you'll unlock a bonus character from that world who has a special ability. For example, the Thang's special character is the Norwegian who can temporarily become invincible. The Dilophosaurus from Jurassic World is super fast, which comes in handy for time-sensitive puzzles and races. Gideon Graves from Scott Pilgrim has unlimited stamina, also making him pretty fast since you can just spam the roll ability. There's a lot of great characters to unlock here. And then once you've collected every silver crown in the game, you can convert every 6 of them into gold crowns using this machine at the top floor of the factory. This will give you all 91 gold crowns, unlocking the final cutscene. Here, Freddy's crown gets fully restored once again, and there's a huge party going on in the factory. However, Foxo, who, if you remember, you can rebuild after collecting his body part in all 42 levels, has this creepy moment of him kind of clapping while twitching at the same time, staring at the camera. You can tell he's just been kind of stitched together after what Eddie did to him at the start of the game, so it seems Tintin Games might be setting up Foxo potentially as the main villain of the next game. We'll obviously have to wait and see on that one. So that's pretty much it for the full single-player experience of Funko Fusion. There is hours and hours worth of content there, but what if you want even more? So post-launch, Tintin Games implemented an online co-op mode where you can play all 42 levels online with up to 3 of your friends. There are a few caveats with this mode. It does not support crossplay, so your friends will need to be on the same platform. There's also no matchmaking, so you'll need to invite people from your friends list to play or get invited by somebody else. This is also a completely separate experience from the main single-player game, so you or your friends won't be making any progress towards their single-player progression. But I'll talk more about that here in a bit. And then lastly, this mode is not available on the PS4 or Nintendo Switch versions of the game. To access co-op, you need to find this machine on any of the 7 world floors in the Wonderworks factory hub. You then load into this Funko Dome lobby where you can then walk up to these pop boxes to invite your friends. You and your friends can select a level and play together. The main goal of this co-op mode is to collect the Fun Coins currency that's scattered across the levels. In fact, instead of silver crowns, the silver chest will have Fun Coins in them instead. Blue Fun Coins are worth 1 and the purple ones are worth 5, so what do you do with these? Fun Coins can be used to purchase specific variant outfits for your characters. These are typically the cooler looking skins in the game, like the blacklight variants. These are super expensive, and as of this video being made, it currently takes about 93,000 Fun Coins to purchase every skin in the game. This takes probably tens of hours of grinding, which I call the Fun Coin grind. The Fun Coin grind and just the co-op mode in general can be played in solo as well, but it's faster the more people that you have since you can divide and conquer gathering the coins. I will warn you though, whoever's not the host will experience some lag here and there, so it's not a perfect experience, but for the most part you can still have a good time in the co-op mode. I'm pretty sure myself and only 1 or 2 others have actually completed this grind for all 93,000 coins, so let me know if you've completed it and purchased every Fun Coin skin, or if you're up for the challenge. I do want to mention that this doesn't seem like this was the original vision for online co-op in the game. Online co-op was confirmed for Funko Fusion all the way back in 2022 when the game was first revealed, so they obviously had it in mind from the very beginning. But when the game released, the online portion was delayed, and when we finally got it, it was kind of reduced to a side mode. It definitely feels like the main game was possibly meant to be drop-in, drop-out co-op at one time. For example, all the cutscenes across the game show the crew of 4 characters from that world, but then in the final game, it's mostly a single-player experience, so it's like the cutscenes don't exactly match the gameplay. Don't get me wrong, I actually love the replayability of the Funcoin grind, but I can't help but tell that co-op was meant to be more integrated into the main experience. I suppose they were having trouble with it during development and had to be delayed and ultimately reduced down. Alright, let's wrap this thing up. So 1010 Games Funko Fusion is not a perfect game, but I've had a blast playing it. The game is loaded with content and features from over 20 franchises. Yes, I think a lot of the franchises are odd choices, but I think there's definitely at least 1 or 2 things that anyone will be familiar with and enjoy seeing it adapted in Funko form. The game had a rocky start, and apparently it didn't meet sales expectations, but I'd say a majority of the bugs have been corrected now. You will occasionally still get soft locked here and there, requiring you to restart the level, but hopefully 1010 can push out a final update or something to clear out these issues. The main gameplay issues I have with this game that I mentioned earlier is the pop box character switching mechanic. I think this needs to be sped up in a future game because it's a bit too cumbersome to switch characters when you constantly need specific character abilities. It discourages playing as characters that you may actually want to play as. There's also the whole pick up and carry item mechanic that's just a bit too tedious, especially in the invincible level as I mentioned. The number of times you need to pick up and carry items around over and over is just a bit too much. I also think the combat system could be expanded upon. There's a lot of variety of ranged weapons that the different characters have, including the ones you can craft at the red mold machines, but I think the melee combat is currently lacking. You're basically just mashing the attack button over and over again, so some variety or combos there would be a great addition. And then in terms of the online play, I'd love to see it integrated into the main experience next time with drop-in, drop-out co-op, with cross-play added as well. Overall, I'd say Funko Fusion is absolutely worth playing, especially if you're a fan of TT Games LEGO games. A deluxe edition of the game is available now, currently for about $40. That will give you the base game and most of the DLC characters, so I'd say it's a great way to drop into the game if you're new. These DLC characters include everything from Universal monsters like Frankenstein and Wolfman, to characters from the Wicked movie, and even wacky ones like the Manchester City soccer players. The best DLC though is the Office Pack. This one gives you characters from The Office like Michael Scott and Dwight Schrute, but also gives you a short 10-minute level to play through with tons of Easter eggs from the show. Funko Fusion may not be perfect, but I think it's a solid foundation for a Funko game franchise, and hopefully 1010 Games can learn from their mistakes here and create a sequel that takes the concept of a Funko game to the next level. But alright guys, that's going to do it for my retrospective of 1010 Games Funko Fusion. Let me know in the comments below if you've played this game before, or maybe you've played it and you didn't like it. Let me know all that good stuff. Be sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, dislike it if not, subscribe for more content like this. I'll see you guys next time here on Quick Break Games.